At Say Hi to the Future, we believe exploring, instilling, inspiring, and nurturing human ingenuity is a leadership imperative. It must be sought and can be honed in every leader. I'm your host, Saquib Vali, Explorers Say Hi to the Future, the fast-growing community highlighting the human side of ingenuity. So our guest today is Noureen Syed, Data and AI leader at IBM Consulting, where Noureen is partner Microsoft practice, empowering a team of data, AI, and automation experts to help customers accelerate adoption of solutions to capitalize impact on their organizations, businesses, and people, their end customers. Prior to IBM, Noureen was at Microsoft for over 15 years. While then, Noureen served as Microsoft's representative on the Government of Canada's Open Source Advisory Board. Welcome, Noureen, and thank you for taking time out from your well-coded schedule.
Thank you, Saquib, for having me.
All right, so Noureen, what we're going to try and do is go through a few different areas and specifically, before we get too deep into it, let's let our listeners hear in your voice how you wish to introduce yourself to them.
Sure. I'll start off with I'm a mom to an 8-year-old, wonderful little inspiring busy bee. And I'm a computer engineer by academic. I went to University of Waterloo, kind of took the traditional STEM path, if you will. And then outside of that, I'm a tech enthusiast. I love technology, most recently cloud, Gen AI, anything to do with sort of the latest trend. And I really, really love serving our customers with solutions and everyday problems that they are tackling. So that's sort of my passion.
Cool. You're in the thick of it, Noureen. There's a lot of buzz around AI, the tech, the use cases, implications to individuals and society at large. Well, and we've also had CEOs and boardroom dramas just in the past couple of weeks. The list goes on. For someone that is in the thick of it all, help us distill the signal from the noise. How should our listeners be thinking about AI? And while you're at it, Noureen, bust some myths on what AI is definitely not.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's a big question. So let's start off with maybe just kind of what it is and how to simply look at it. I think if the one takeaway I could say is AI is definitely very revolutionary. We're calling it the fourth revolution, if you will. The last time, if you can kind of think back, the big ones there is like this invention of the steam engine was sort of big for travel, or the airplane. Each sort of monumental change when the internet came about, and that's sort of more sort of me growing up as a child, life changed, and then PC started ending up on everybody's desk to now the little things we carry in our hands, right? The pocket phones. So all of these things have kind of created the next revolution and made things simpler, easier, faster, made us more productive in ways. And AI very simply is that. It's definitely going to be very fundamental and change the ways we work today. Some of the things, whether we call it a myth or fact, I'll let the audience decide. It all depends on perspective. Will it eliminate jobs? Yes. Will it create jobs? Yes. So the net effect really could be, no change. There's going to be jobs. Do we have to transform? Well, it's no different than how we've had to transform any other time technology changes came up, whether it's the phone, the internet, et cetera, right? We have to change ways of how we work and look at things. And I think the other way is, rather than fearing the AI, the positive outlook, I'm just generally a positive person, it's to think about how can it make me more productive, more efficient, and how can it add value to my day? So I think that is sort of the biggest thing in terms of working with organizations. I think that's the biggest question for a lot of them today, where it's, hey, people are buzzing with ideas from everybody in their company, and every department, if you will, has an AI idea and how to make things. But with a company that's got limited resources, people, time, money, spend on, cost of ownership of running things in the cloud or computer, whatever it is that they need to do to run these AI use cases for their business, they need to kind of formulate a strategy, a top line. What is AI to us? Is it going to help us with our customer service? Is it going to add top line revenue? Is it going to make things easier? Kind of start formulating those ideas so that they can ground themselves on how they prioritize. Those are the opportunities, right? If we come a little bit to the challenge side of it, and where people kind of get scared is, if anybody's kind of used any AI tool, it is hallucinating. It does have challenges in information and how it's reading, but it's come a long way since where you have to have a team of data scientists where you need to train it. Now it's sort of using these large language models where it comes pre-trained, it's self-training constantly, it's absorbing data, and you do still need human verification or, more training and more modeling on top to continue to make it more accurate. But it's come ways from where it was. It was scary back then, but it's certainly not scary now. And I think as long as an organization or individuals who are looking to use AI is grounded in a couple of things, which is, do I understand the transparency and the sources of the data? Where is the data coming from? Because that's important to ensure that the AI hasn't just taken, different personalities, merged it together and said, here's sort of the output. The second piece around would be privacy, right? Because as an organization is pumping through their own data, perhaps for modeling or their business use cases, they want to ensure that any of their private data, their customer data, doesn't leak out and get merged to a model outside. So ensuring that any training or augmentation of what's readily available in AI, generative AI today, is that additional training that's company's proprietary data stays within security walls and appropriate walls to avoid sort of that privacy leak of information that might be essential to that company or their clients. And then the last thing I would say is ethics. Ethics has been an issue, but I think prior to AI and anything, whether it's our communications or commenting styles on the internet, right, which tend to be questionable any given day. If you want drama, just kind of go open up X or Twitter, right? And I think, again, it kind of flows into those things. So it's really how do you diversify? How do you train it? It could be as simple as the team that's working with AI products that you bring to market. Is that team diverse? Because that, at the end of the day, ethics can be solved when you have diversity of opinion, thought, process, and all sorts of diversity. Then you can kind of help address a wide variety of issues. You might not address everything. And then so a part of it is it's a feedback loop. As you learn things that you haven't addressed, take that feedback, grow from it, right? There is no sort of wrong step that you can take. You can continue growing. So that, I hope that kind of offers some simplification.
It does. And I it's fascinating. One of the things that you mentioned, which I don't think I'd ever clued into the way you've said it, which is diversity is a way to overcome ethics. So say a bit more about that, because I don't know if I've ever heard that articulated that way.
It could be my opinion only. I will kind of add it, but to me, when I look at ethics, the issues are really about is the data going to be fair? Is it going to be discriminatory? Is it going to be politically correct? Those are a lot of the ethical issues, right? And then safety could be looped in as well. If we talk about AI, let's say in the use of a manufacturing plant or robots, and we don't want the AI to kind of go rogue and put people's safety around at use, or even if you have self-driving cars. So ethics really kind of covers a broad ground of issues. Where I think the diversity comes in is if you have people of different personas and different personalities and different backgrounds working, I think the problem solving or ingenuity, if you will, that they would kind of bring to solving, or the test use cases they might bring forward, is really going to cover a wider spectrum than if you kind of have the same type of people always solving and looking at those problems. In general, the process a lot of the large organizations and consulting firms are kind of taking with customers is they have principles around AI to solve for ethics. So they're much more frameworked in, hey, are you taking a look at this? And are you taking a look at this? And here's the 5 or 6 principles that you should take a look at, which is absolutely a great way to kind of go about it. But I think I would add diversity of the teams working on these projects is sort of something I personally think can bring just some natural ethics grounding as well, in addition to grounded frameworks and the guardrails they provide.
Very cool. Understand. So most of our listeners, Noureen, we've got sort of 3 different kinds of people who regularly tune into Say Hi to the Future. There are obviously mid to large organizations, and a lot of them are trying to figure out how do we get on this bandwagon? Because everyone wants to adopt something now. As you think through this, also help me understand, because I've heard a lot about, yes, there is adopt, but there's also how are you going to create value? Because at some point in time, everyone's going to adopt, and that's not going to be a source of competitive advantage. So what is going to be a source of competitive advantage is how have you figured out AI to be a way to add value to whatever you're doing, whether the work you're doing, the products you're serving, the services that you're providing, the customers you're serving. So unless you really understand how AI is going to augment that value creation, just adopting AI is going to be like, yeah, everyone's on the internet. That really is not a competitive advantage. So help our listeners think through some of that, please.
For sure. Yeah. And I think first thing you kind of mentioned is really that strategy or goal or formulating a North Star. What does AI mean to our organization, our company, our startup, or just you as a person, right? And for instance, I can kind of give you a very personal example before I kind of go to companies. So for me, AI is okay. Well, Gen AI is here to stay. There's a lot of new terms. I'm hearing language model, RAG, right? There's all these terms, and I'm throwing them out specifically without defining them because I want the viewers to kind of go look them up. Well, there's a lot of learning paths that organizations are putting out. So as a personal individual in the age of AI, your simple goal could be, let me just ramp up. Go take a couple of courses, go do some online modules, get some sort of a certification, go through a learning path, and spend some time every day, every week, every month to ramp up on what AI is. And that will make a huge difference at a very personal level and get you ready to adopt in whatever shape or form AI might make a difference in your life. Bring it up to a level of a mid-organization. Like I said, each department might be buzzing with ideas. And so they have to kind of start, if they answer to a board, maybe with that board or their leadership team, on what do we want AI to do for us? Is it going to solve the biggest business challenge for us? Is it, and I mean, you know, it's hard when an economical downturn time, everybody's business challenge might be like, we need to make more money or cut costs. And so, yes, everything always kind of comes down to those, but I think they can be a bit more granular on, well, you know, what are the blockers that are either standing in the way of making revenue or cutting costs? Is it because the process isn't efficient? Is it because our customer service, our customer loyalty isn't there? Is it because the products have a flaw? Is it because our go-to-market isn't that smooth? Is it because we have one thriving business and we're not focused in our core competency, or we're not able to share customers from one business to the other? What are those business insights? Like, what are the questions you as leaders ask yourself to help solve for your business challenges? And if you kind of put those questions out and extract, okay, well, maybe that's the strategy and the goal. Do we want it to solve our biggest business insight questions or challenges, right? And then from there on, then there's sort of that next step. When you use that as the grounding or the North Star, then as the business use cases come up, some of it is a bit of driving excitement and skills and change management through your organization too. So you could ground the strategy on what AI should do for you, but really you should then, as leaders, ask the people and the teams in those functions impacted, and maybe it's everybody, to kind of do some hackathons, do some learning, and come up with what would be useful. And then maybe you can graduate the ideas that align with that strategy that should be brought to life and have some funding and move forward. And then you can pilot these things relatively cheap in a safe format, in public forum, and then you can start kind of working more deeper. And it does have technology implications. I wouldn't be working at a consulting firm if I didn't say this, but it does, right? At the end of the day, for years now, with the advent of the cloud, a journey our clients have been on is trying to amalgamate different data sources. So they've got data warehouses, they've got databases, they've got all this data everywhere. But if it's just disparate data signals without any connections, that's all it is. It's just point in time data. So, you know, one of the key things with big data and analytics when it came up, you know, almost a decade ago was, well, how do we start bringing this data together and connect it to draw insight? And that's really where data starts to become super valuable because it's no longer individual pieces of data. So I think the second piece would be a little bit of the technology changes, infrastructure, cloud adoption, other things that companies probably have to do, because you can't just say, okay, well, I'm doing AI tomorrow and run and kind of do it. The third piece, and I think this is, I'll kind of, for this audience, I'll leave that as the final piece. There's definitely other things to consider, is AI is a bit of a journey in its scale. So there is sort of the complicated, I need a large language model, I need to train the data, I need to augment, and oh my God, I need to do generative AI. And then there is, you know, if you just buy software as a service, there's now AI that's coming in built in. So the simple function in our email where emails try to complete words and say, are you trying to type this and just hit tab? That's a productivity gain. If you can kind of take a resume and upload it into LinkedIn and it formulates your LinkedIn for you versus you kind of sitting in and filling out everything, that's a productivity gain. And that's some form of artificial intelligence as well. So in addition to kind of having the strategy, what AI means, you also need to make a call. Does it need to be, what type of AI is it? Can I just purchase this AI capability built in off the shelf? Is it already in the products, in the next version of the products and services that I utilize today? Or is it a use case that is really innovative, that is really groundbreaking for our industry? To your point, it's going to generate competitive advantage, and it's something crazy I'm trying to do for my clients and new and innovative. Now I need to really kind of think of AI more comprehensively and training and models and the full breadth of more of a custom AI model. So those are the three things I think, to kind of put it simply.
I understand. And, I mean, so like I said, so that's one set of our audiences. The other set of audiences are just individuals who are trying to solve wicked challenges, right? And listen in for insights and different ways of thinking differently. And so if I the whole say hi to the future is all about human ingenuity. And what I'd love to have your thought, I mean, since you're at the front end of a lot of the stuff that's going on here, you're also part of an organization and you're trying to lead that organization, also stay lockstep with you and innovate and etc. So go into your own organization and give me insights from what is your leadership take on the human side of ingenuity? Like what what are some of the examples where you think it's working really well? What are some of the places where you don't think it is working as well? And what are some of the lessons you've learned from them?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, if I reflect at, and IBM's kind of brought to market three different types of use cases that they're focusing on. So it's automation for app modernization, customer service, and the third one is HR and talent. And as a leader, I'll speak to the HR and talent one as a personal example that I think is working really well. One of the exercises I recently had to kind of go for my team is to kind of look at their performance, generate some reports on how the merits and incentives should be allocated and things like that. That exercise normally could be a really long, lengthy manual exercise where you can imagine there's sort of meetings between leaders, the interactions that our teams have with all the different business groups to try to get insights, piece together all these intangible things. Because there's the metrics and the KPIs, which might be like person's, you could kind of take the hard data, their utilization, their performance, feedback someone's given. But then you're really looking and digging as a leader to look at intangible stuff. Like, what is this person doing above and beyond? And what are they bringing to our clients? And what do our clients really think and say about it? And that kind of an exercise normally took a lot of exchanges, a lot of meetings. We've been able to kind of take the normal data sources for all of these things and model and provide recommendations for people on where they should be. And because it's sort of, early days, some managers still took the time. I didn't do this one, but I'll kind of say that I'm talking to peers where they said, I kind of went the traditional route and see, if I did discussions, who would I kind of rate how? And then see if the model was recommending the people the same way. And the answers were pretty close, right? And so that's the first time exercise you could call as adoption and change management. People had to go through to trust. Can they trust the model is providing? Does it have biases? Is it looking at, and obviously the way the modeling was done is we were provided insights into the factors it was looking at. So we all sort of agreed, yeah, those are traditional things that we looked on our own too. So you're not missing something. Or now that the model is doing it, could you also look at this and this that we haven't had the chance and time to do as people in the past? So that was sort of the added benefit and value. And I could tell you the process shrunk from like 5-6 weeks to an activity we were able to do over a week, right? And so that's a huge leadership productivity gain. It's in fact, the model recommended people that we would have missed in the past due to, let's say, regional visibility. They are just dug in a lot. They're deep in a long time project. And so sometimes you could forget like just normal stuff that people do too. So we have our biases as well, not just computers, right? And so it was really good that the model was able to kind of dig out because it was looking at a vector and data across people.
It's funny because we generally talk about, well, there are biases with AI. Well, there are biases with humans. And so long as the biases with AI are going to be less of an impact versus the biases with human, you've still made a positive game. So cool. Now, the third bit of our listeners are either current alumni of universities or, frankly, are still in their last bit of coming through. So, we've got our partnership here in Toronto with University of Toronto, in Columbus with the Columbus College of Art and Design. We've done it with Denison University, and also with Ohio State and their incubator, which is Rev One. Similarly, we've got our relationship with Georgia Tech in Atlanta. So one of the things that I would love to understand from you, you're on an amazing career and a journey that's going, and it's really really heartening to see that. But let me ask you, how did you prepare yourself when you were doing your engineering at Waterloo and you happen to be now in the thick of exactly what's on trend? What advice would you have to your younger self, saying, here are some of the things that I did? And frankly, there might be some areas where you might say, you know what, and if I were to take that journey again, I might do some things differently. What would some of those things be?
For sure. Yeah, I think I can first reflect on the attitude I have taken to get to where I am. And that's a bit of, I'll especially call this out to my women in STEM, or women that are looking to get into STEM. First of all, don't let it be a blocker if you didn't take a STEM degree. I work with plenty of women that are now in tech that came the non-traditional routes, and they actually did not do a STEM or a tech degree. So that's something, don't let that hold back. I took a standard route, so that's why I call it out, because someone might say, well, yeah, it's easy for you to say because you took an engineering course. So I want to reassure folks that there's plenty of women that I work with that haven't taken that traditional path. The second one, and this is really important for the ladies, is we tend to hold back our point of view. We want to research the world before we tell everybody, well, this is what we think it is. And I've had lots of great mentors and coaches over the years kind of tell me, but one attitude I had growing up was, what's the worst that can happen? If I go ahead and try this thing, the answer might be no, I might fail, but that's the absolute worst. And there's a number of people that just don't go try something or go do something because they're afraid of the failure is pretty phenomenal. And I think that tends to be the biggest blocker in people's career steps or journeys and whatever that next promotion or opportunity might be. So that's the first thing that I would kind of reflect on, what has kind of been helpful leading to my success or career journey. If I were to reflect back on what I would do differently, that's a really good one. There's many things I think every day to kind of think about how to do differently. I think one of those ones would be when I got out of university, I made kind of a decision that I really want to kind of go into a people-facing role. So I loved my engineering, I loved coding, but I didn't want to kind of continue staying hands-on technical. And as much as I'm in the trend and in the technical, I've lost a bit of my hands-on touch. Every once in a while, I tinker with it. I go in, I read enough to be dangerous, but as soon as it gets to coding examples, I'm like, okay, it's something that I don't need to know. I have a team that knows it better than me. And so, I'm kind of trying to follow that trend right now. And that's why I'm telling you, I'm on a personal journey to ramp up a little bit on AI, because I think I've been getting by so far really well with my technical knowledge or the courses that I've been taking as part of my corporate training. But now it's time to get my hands a little bit dirty and probably do a little bit more technical hands-on and ramp up with AI. Do I ever need to do it by myself? Would I be doing it with a team? And again, leading a team and encouraging and inspiring them to do it? Yes, but I would like to understand some of their challenge. And that's just a little bit of my personality as well, is I want to know enough to understand what kind of challenges, what kind of things come up. And then I can step back and let others shine that do it really best, but at least I understand their world a little bit better. So one thing I would say is keep up your technical a bit more if you have the bandwidth to, and it never needs to be too technical, but do keep it up.
And who knew? Keep up with the skills. If nothing else, it helps you with empathy.
Yes,
and appreciate
absolutely.
the people that are around you. That's a fascinating way to look at it. So Noureen, now this gets me to, what's your advice to other leaders about the people at your level in different organizations? What would you ask them to be doing?
I mean, I can start out by being super grateful and thankful for the leaders who have been in my life and currently are. They're phenomenal in whether it's building up my confidence, whether it's encouraging my ways, or just really seeing what energizes me. And so, but the most recently, I kind of start off my IBM journey in one part, and then I've kind of shifted my way into kind of taking on some data and AI responsibilities, more core with the generative AI. And one of the leaders I was having a chat with last week kind of said, Noureen, I can see that, this is more in line with where your passion is. And he could just read it off my energy in a one-on-one chat. And so I said, thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad you kind of put me on this virtual team. Really happy to do it. And I think that's what a great leader really is one who sits back and has a great chance to holistically look across the team. They're not sort of tunnel vision or focused into one project at a time. And they can really see what's energizing somebody, what's where they are in their learning journey. Like, some of it is okay. Like, while I'm energized, I'm still maybe early in my journey in whatever new projects I'm doing. And so there is a period of administrative learning and all of those things I'm going to go to before I get to kind of excellence and role. And that's okay. That's different. But it's really important to kind of see where someone is bringing more than their 100%, because that's truly giving them energy, and where someone is just, wilting and dying away. And so that doesn't mean they're necessarily a bad worker or don't have what it takes in terms of ingenuity and skills to get the task done. But maybe we as leaders need to do a better job of finding a fit for them that is going to energize and give them energy back.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's funny. When you're having fun, time goes by so quickly. We're about at, getting towards the end. But before we wrap up, so Noureen, I came into this, obviously there's a certain thought process and there's a way that we have that I ask questions and try and bring out the very best in our guests. But at the same time, is there something that when you came into this, you said, you know what, here are a couple of things that I definitely would love to touch on, but because of my questions, you didn't get to do that. So if anything on your mind that you'd wish to share with our leaders?
First of all, thank you again for the opportunity, and the questions were great. I think really got a lot. I'm most energized by the third crowd that you said you speak to. So today I take personal time to kind of speak to a lot of young university students. Those are graduating, those are still interning. And to those, I would say, be brave in bringing forward your point of views, because you currently don't have the same blinders or the same boxes now that have been formed around you in your thinking. You bring fresh thinking. You have compared to what I did in university 16 years ago, your ways of learning with AI around are completely different than, I'm learning the AI as we speak and as it's coming out. So do bring your ideas forward. Do not be shy, and get coaching on how to bring it. If you're worried about how do I say it, who do I say it to? But I hope you, like the privilege I have, is you find a lot of mentors and managers that encourage you and support you in bringing those things forward, because you're going to change the world phenomenally, and you are the leaders of tomorrow. So please don't stop being you, is what my message is to all those young listeners.
Please don't stop being you is exactly an amazing place to leave this at. Thank you again, Noureen, for taking the time and sharing your insights. Our listeners would love to hear more from you. We will tag you and IBM on our show notes. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Saquib, for having me.
The Say Hi to the Future podcast series is produced by Sonia Romero, edited by Matt Miller, and special effects by Edward Vasquez. Please leave us your thoughts and let us know if there is a leader you want us to have a conversation with next.